We would just wanted to take a few minutes today to introduce Parents for Reading Justice. It's a 501c3 that we have started within the last few years. We've been doing this work for about a decade, and so this is kind of the formalization of that. If any of you are here for the Decoding Dyslexia presentation, I just wanted to mention that it was a major bummer for us in Ohio that we did not have a Decoding Dyslexia. There's a model in Decoding Dyslexia where the statewide organization is run by a few people, and if the few people, if that gets into the wrong hands, then the whole effort is really kind of tanked. So Illinois and Ohio did not have the ability to form that because ours was kind of taken over by some people who were selling product. Is that the same in Colorado?
Yeah, it's pretty much not. I've lived in like 5 different states with 5 different decoding dyslexia situations.
Yeah.
Very different. Like Virginia, fantastic. California, okay. Colorado, there's Go Kids and a couple other organizations.
Yeah. And we're related to Colorado Kids, and we'll get into that. We can talk about it. But our basic premise is that parents' grassroots organizing at any level, primarily district first, and then state, and then national, can be very, very powerful. And that we are a stakeholder that is, I don't think, utilized as much as we should be. And I think that unless we do this work and parents are involved as a stakeholder, I don't think I think it'll be another swing of the pendulum. So I think that we are the critical stakeholder. So our background, president of Parents for Reading Justice, our district organization is called UA Kid, Upper Arlington Kids Identified with Dyslexia. We did a statewide organization, coalition, OH Kid. I'm active in our IDA chapter locally. That's the strongest kind of statewide organization outside of ours. And so that's a partner of ours. Louise Stekovitz is my partner in this, and she's going to talk at the end about the Evidence Advocacy Center, which is a really interesting resource that has just come up that we can talk about in more detail, but it's something that we'd like parents to have access to and to use. We also did a documentary called Harvey. We have our own little documentary called Our Dyslexic Children that we would recommend that you look at, and a fellow at NCTQ. Louise Stekovitz she works with us on our podcast primarily. She's also the co-founder of the Illinois Early Literacy Coalition. If anybody's in Illinois, that's a statewide coalition you want to align yourselves with. She is the team lead for the Parent and Family Advocate at the Evidence Advocacy Center. She's on their Reading League Illinois and a fellow at the Stand for Children Illinois, which is another statewide group. So after having gone to a lot of these presentations, I would have changed my slides because I'm always kind of updating and thinking about them. But this came from a pitch deck that we do when we're trying to raise funds for our work. So a lot of this will be preaching to the choir, but I'll move through those fairly quickly. But our primary mission is to educate and then to motivate, inspire, and then support grassroots parent organizations to assert their legal rights, IDEA rights primarily, but also your state rights, along with their electoral power, both at the school board level, at your district, at your statewide legislator level, as well as at national politics level. And then the moral authority. I think we are the ones whose children and whose families are suffering. We are the ones who are doing this work free 24/7. And so our voices must be a part of the conversation. And I would change our mission statement, and some of our recent stuff has to hold not only our districts, but the entire education system accountable for instituting evidence-based literacy instruction. So what we've done in Ohio is been able to flip districts, but then also to begin working with colleges of education to influence their teaching, which I think is the root of the problem. And until we flip the colleges of education, they're educating science deniers every year. It'll never end. So we even have a role there. When doing this presentation for funders, we kind of lay the groundwork for how horrible the problem is. The only thing I would say with this is that the general public is not aware of how bad the literacy crisis is. I don't know, maybe looking at the election right now, I don't think enough people can read. But I can go to a cocktail party and say only 1/3 of children in this country are proficient readers, and people do not believe you. So there is also a huge component of raising awareness that we need to continue. That is going to be a big part of our work. For Black and Hispanic students, as we all know, the numbers are even more dire. If 1/3 can read, it's like half that. And this is a civil rights issue, but a human rights issue. As we all know, and maybe all of you are parents of dyslexic children, but if you're not, the social emotional effects are devastating for children. Their sense of self is often being developed right around the time that you're figuring out they can't read or they're having trouble, first, second, third grade, when they are developing their self-confidence and their self-image. And that's when this is happening. So our kids are often, not all of them, but many are in therapy and antidepressants and anti-anxiety and diagnosed with ADHD, maybe because they have ADHD or maybe not, because a lot of times it manifests when you're trying to get away from your teacher who's not teaching you reading. You're wiggly, and we know that about half the prison population is dyslexic and 3/4 are functionally illiterate, addiction, self-harm. So we all know this. It has to be done. I like to put up, when I talk to people about this, why this matters to everyone, not just parents. A lot of times, and when we went after statewide legislation, we would talk about, you'd bring in stories, mothers who are crying about their children and the devastation that they felt. And that is moving. And it does move some people. You can also talk about it as a civil rights issue because that's important and that moves other people. But you talk about it in terms of money and workforce and the economy, and everybody listens. So I encourage parents, when making these kinds of presentations, to make the economic argument as well and couch a lot of this in business terms. My background is engineering and an MBA. And so that's kind of naturally the way I think about it. But sometimes when I work with other parent groups or other just groups in general, only to appeal, pull the heartstrings, I don't find it as effective. They're looking at, what are we having for lunch next? But if you start talking about how do we compete nationally, how do we compete with China nationally, then it becomes important to even the business leaders in your community. As we all know, 95% of kids, if we really did this right and got kids the instruction, the intervention that they need, it would happen. Almost all of our kids would learn to read without intense intervention. A lot of parents don't know or utilize the legislation that is already in place. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and the idea that there's all of this beautiful stuff at the national level, sometimes at your state level, sometimes even at your district level that already exists, but people are not accessing it or there is no accountability mechanism. So we always educate parents that they have federal rights under the Individuals with Disability Education Act, child find, and a fair and appropriate public education. When you're working to flip your district to the science of reading, you don't necessarily want to have to take legal action. Our district is directly next to the Ohio State University, which is infamous for Fontes and Pinnell, the most widely used balanced literacy curriculum, and Reading Recovery, which is the intervention that is, but harmed so many children. It's the whole 3 cueing basis brought over by our emeritus professor, Gay Sue Pinnell, that Marie Clay taught in New Zealand. And so, I forget what it was. Okay. We also have, dyslexia laws that we've been able to pass in Ohio. The trick there has been the accountability. We have a lot of accountability at a federal level that parents are able to leverage for their dyslexic children. But at a state level, we've had a hard time getting in the accountability measures. And so that's something that we're working on this next legislative cycle. But the federal law has teeth that you can leverage, and we found that to be very useful. So I just wanted to let people understand our specific story about our district, and so that you can kind of see the power of organizing at a grassroots level. So because we were the first district where Reading Recovery was used, we were a very, very whole language balanced literacy district. So when we approached them, and we were nice, kind parents, and we were for a very long time, they said, "Thank you so much for this interesting information. We'll look at it and see you later." We realized as a family individually that we could take legal action individually. We did file due process on our district because we had to take care of our daughter first. One of the things that we encourage people to do, you have to take care of and put out the fire in your own house. But then we very much encourage people to stick around and to work in this grassroots coalition to take care of all of the children in the district from here on out. So what we found was we started talking to the other parents whose kids were in the intervention class, or if you volunteer at school, the other kids that get pulled to go to these special classes. And we began building a grassroots coalition in our district, because we realized, again, if we were going to make long-lasting change, we had to do it. We couldn't do it individually because we saw them pick off people. So if we give you OG, your kid OG, and we tell you, and you don't even have to say it to the parent, the district, but you can let them understand that they have a privilege, they've gotten this, and kind of if you mess around too much or you get too crazy, we can take that away. And so we wanted to make sure everybody, all the people who didn't have the time and resource, the time and the money to do this work, we wanted to fix the district for everyone and stop doing this over and over individually. So we found other parents. Then we had to educate ourselves about the science of reading. Then we did run it like a business. And I think that's really important with parents. A lot of times parents will say, we're passionate. Well, that to me is just kind of a way to say, well, that's an angry mom. And they are very emotional, and they bring stories of their crying children. And that's okay. But no, we run this like a business. We have a mission statement. We have officers. We have a strategic plan. We know exactly what we're doing and where we're going. And every time that we meet or met and continue to meet with a district person, a teacher, a principal, the student services director, the superintendent. We take in our mission statement, and it's got 7 things that we're looking for. Finding dyslexic kids, helping them, getting science-based reading instruction in all classrooms for all children, parents being a part of the team, teachers having professional development, and dyslexic kids graduating at the same levels. And what it does is it allows everyone to focus on exactly what we're looking for and what we're working toward. And to the district, it tells them what we want, so that we'll kind of, what we're going to just keep pushing for. So we were able to flip our district to the science of reading. Now, we did have to file a systemic group complaint because we were the first ones right outside of Ohio State's purview that did this. The beauty of a systemic group complaint, and I don't know that every state has this capability, but if you do, it's very, very powerful. If you have an individual due process, the findings, they make you sign something so that you can't talk about it. And that's their way of taking that family out. It's like a whack-a-mole. Then you have to be quiet. But by putting together a systemic group complaint, there are a number of advantages. The findings are made public so that everyone all over the state sees that this, and we were a very good district for many kids, but we had a huge blind spot for our dyslexic kids. So everybody in the whole state sees, oh shit, Upper Arlington was found in violation of federal law on every single account. Now, ours was primarily child find. They were not identifying our kids with dyslexia, and so they got into all kinds. It's like dropping a nuclear bomb in the middle of the district. What happened
with child find?
Okay, I just assumed everybody would know. It's basically that if you have a student with a specific learning disability in reading, the district, this is also important, thank you. The district has an affirmative obligation. And I want to say that again, an affirmative obligation. What that means is they have an obligation federally to look for and to find your children with dyslexia, and then provide them a fair and appropriate public education. If they don't do that, they are in violation of federal law. That was something.
State law. Most states, I think, if not all, have an identical state child find law.
So we were able, in like a very high level view, we were able to show that in our individual case, our own due process, but in this systemic group complaint, over time and across our district was systemically not identifying kids with dyslexia. Guilty, I like to say guilty, but they were found in violation of all 3 allegations. But what it did was the whole district had to rethink what they had been saying and what they had been doing. The superintendent retired early. The assistant superintendent went to another district, and our student services director was let go within about 3 or 4 months. And so what we did was to immediately go in with the new superintendent. We didn't say, I told you so. We didn't go through, we immediately went in and we said, we are UA Kid. We want to partner with you to build a district that will serve not just our dyslexic children, but all of our children. And the reason that we got sideways with you was because we weren't communicating. So what's very important from here on out is that we communicate and that we collaborate. So to this day, last week we had a meeting. We meet quarterly with our district, as the Dyslexia Task Force. And we have our executive committee, along with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, student services director, the reading expert, and we go through. Now, what we don't tell them, but they have realized, and nobody's really saying anything about it, we're not just working on dyslexic kids. We're actually working on the whole MTSS system with them. When we come to meetings like this, I'm sending this team information about DLD. I'm sending them information, it's like the new thing that our district is not super aware of and that we need to bone up on. But we are actually, and we have a seat at the table. So we are, we're making a lot of progress. It did take a little bit of time. Individually, we were struggling up until about 2010. We did file the systemic group complaint. By the way, I also wanted to say that we did start off partnering. I don't want people to think that we were just suing the district, and I was called a litigious parent, and there's one school teacher that, goes to the grocery store, and when she sees me, to this day, she'll turn and kind of go the other way. But I'm okay making a few, not enemies, but I'm okay with her. She's small, she's petty, she doesn't really have my kids' interest at heart, but we did go to each level, but the obfuscation and the ignorance and arrogance in our district was so powerful that our superintendent wouldn't even meet with our parent group. So when I do these presentations, I can honestly say that we were forced to file the systemic group complaint. We went to each of the school board members and met with them if they would even meet with us. 2 of them would not meet with us. Sitting school board members that won't meet with a parent constituent? Who are they? So anyway, we were forced to file the systemic group complaint. So in 2011, a year after we started the parent group, we got our letter of findings. And that's important because I want you to know that it doesn't have to take that long. From the first meeting that we had as a parent group, it only took a year till we got our letter of findings and the district was found in violation of all 3 allegations for child find, or our systemic group complaint. Then we sidled up to them, we collaborated with them, and we began like the next phase. Again, we didn't say we told you so, but it's almost like working with children. If we catch them doing the right thing, we support teachers and administrators who are doing the right thing. Because you have to, especially in a transitional district like this, you actually do have to protect and take care of the people in the district who really are moving and who are getting it and who want to do the right thing. But we can do that by writing letters of recommendation. We got our student services director the Student Services Director of the Year award because we thought, even because he's doing the right thing, they couldn't let him go because he's the student services educator of the whole year in the whole state of Ohio. So we basically secured his job by doing that. So we also did a lot of presentations in partnership with our district so that we could highlight what they were doing well and how we were partnering together with them. So today in our district, we screen all of our students early for reading difficulties. We do the CTOP in kindergarten. And then for those kids who flagged, we do it again in first grade to make sure that we are taking care of and helping those kids. Like we do the diagnostic immediately on every kindergartner coming into the district, because what's so important is and this is what we continue to help them understand and reinforce, is that don't just do what you should do, or you're supposed to do. Pretend these are your children. What would you do if these were your children? You would want to know immediately if they were at risk for dyslexia. So we do the CTOP with all of our kindergartners right away. Wilson Foundation's K through 3, they initially did it just for interventions, and now they're doing it for all kids. So we are, and what I call it, when I say the Trojan horse, what I mean is that if you can get in working for students with dyslexia, you can actually get in enough to begin helping the general ed population. You can help all the kids, because what happens is they were doing it in kindergarten, then kindergarten in first, then kindergarten first, second, and one of the teachers, the regular ed teacher, began noticing how much better these kids were doing that were getting intervention Wilson Foundations, and they said, I want to do that with my kids. So we didn't even have to push them to do it. It begins to sell itself within the district. So if you can get some good interventions for our dyslexic kids, it then has influence into the general ed population. All of our intervention specialists have OG certification. We can train them in-house now because our reading expert is such a high level. She can train internally. We're institutionalizing science of reading through professional development. We're training all of our own teachers. Our teachers are really sought after, and people are trying to pick them off. That's like another thing that we're now having to kind of worry about or think about. But they've put into place something where they need to stay for, I think it's 5 years, or they have to pay back for the training. So we train them for free because we want them to have that knowledge, but if they leave, they're just like a little penalty because we're basically training up everybody else's OGs if they leave. So we do try to keep them. And we're a very highly ranked lighthouse district in the state. So what this experience did was to kind of just let us see that there is a lot of power in parents coming together. So when people will, I was with my brother-in-law, and he lives in Chicago, and he was saying, like, there's no hope. Everything's terrible. You can't really change anything. We got fired up because we changed something. Like, we flipped this district. And so we began to realize that this model can be leveraged to help other districts. So we began grassroots organizing and coaching other districts around us in Central Ohio. We also, one of the points I do want to make about a parent group is that people say this is a rich man's game, and it is. It can cost a lot of money, but how do you alleviate that? If you join in a parent group, then if there's a bill for $1,000 from your attorney, you split that 10 ways if you've got 10 families. And that's basically what we had was 10 families who stood up and filed the systemic group complaint. The point being that even if you're a low resource or a resource constrained district, building a parent group helps share that workload, the time, as well as the money required if you were to have to hire an attorney. But what I also wanted to mention was that because our district was kind of the leader, we did have to file the systemic group complaint. No other districts in Central Ohio had to file the systemic group complaint because it was it was the stick that everybody knew that it actually could be done, and what they were doing was illegal. Then we fundraised money to produce a documentary called Our Dyslexic Children, and afterwards there is a QR code and there's some information, but it shows how we did what we did in a 40-minute short documentary, but parent groups in other districts could use it for two purposes: to inspire other parent groups to do this work. I think it's it helps you to want to do the work when you know it can be done. Like everybody says, get active, do this, do that. But if you see an example of how it can be done and that it can be done, then you know that you can also do it. So to inspire parents, but also to help districts understand why this work is important. We made a very conscious effort to bring in children and their point of view. So, and I can't even talk about it, but we had our kids filmed and talking about how difficult it was. So it's a very powerful documentary. I would recommend you show it to parents, but also to the district administration. And it also lets the district administrations know that they do have to comply with federal law and you can be sued. So that was a tool that we built. I also just want to mention that everything that we do at Parents for Reading Justice is free to anybody. So the documentary is free on YouTube. Again, get our QR code and you can have it, but that's where you would find it. And then we set up this nonprofit to do the work on a larger scale, Parents for Reading Justice. So, and before I leave that, so we flipped our district, then we mentored other districts around us. Then we formed a statewide coalition called OH Kid. And the reason that Colorado has Colorado Kid and we have OH Kid were Michael Busey and I. His mom lives in Columbus. And so we had coffee one day for like 3 hours. And he saw the benefit in organizing in this manner, and he started Boulder Valley Kid, and then Colorado Kid came out of that. So a statewide coalition is something that you can use to then go after statewide legislation, which I think is very, very valuable because it kind of gives you the guardrails. But I do believe that organizing at the district level is critical. It's like your base business because that is where kids actually learn to read. You can have beautiful statewide legislation, beautiful federal legislation. You can have beautiful district guidance. But until parents get activated and involved, it may not get into the classroom. And that's why we are so critical. So we tried to begin looking at how this model could help even more people. So again, we had the documentary and we're excited. We have like 180,000 views and we've never really publicized it or put it out. They're beginning to use it in teacher prep programs. So we also built an online course. So what we did over the pandemic, I did a very little grassroots fundraising and we raised like $40,000. And we spent the pandemic interviewing the parents that originally were a part of this group, talking about how we did what we did. And then we laid it out in kind of a master class. And then because many people whose children are dyslexic themselves, we began videotaping interviews with various experts, with parents. Michael Busey's on there, to teach parents how to do what we did. So the documentary inspires them to do it. And then the master class was developed and it's all free to help people walk through how to do it. And then after that, we are happy to coach up individual parent groups in individual districts because each district is going to be slightly different. You might know the superintendent, or you might know the school board chair, or you might, you have different points, different places where you can make an impact. So we just tried to keep expanding how many people we could help. This to me was, so the proof of concept for me is that our original group was the UA Kid here. And we then coached up the ODN, the Olentangy Dyslexia Network, the Hilliard Parent Group, and there are district parent groups. There are also statewide parent groups, including OH Kid across the top on the far left. Colorado Kid is right under that. We helped also in Illinois with Louise. Louise is in, Chicago, basically. And what we wanted to do is to begin capturing parent groups who got it and were interested in this work, and that we could go to if we wanted to bounce our ideas off of people. And so we developed a parent group directory. And so if you have a parent group, or if you develop a parent group, we would encourage you to reach out and to register with us so that we can, we've got parent groups in probably 20 states. We would like to then go nationally. And again, I think that, and we're kind of a loose coalition, because decoding dyslexia is interesting to me after having gone to this presentation just now, because there's a lot of the work that we can do together. And we do have a few decoding dyslexias. Ottawa Hills is in Ohio. Where's Janine Hansen? What's her, Naperville? Decoding dyslexia. But I feel like we're all doing the same work. And so I feel like we can all be a part of this. Like, it's almost like a trusted parent group network. So anyway, we have mentored many, many groups, and each one of them is now individually working in their own district at varying levels of success. Some have flipped and are moving like we are. Some are still fighting and kind of working their way along. And again, none of them had to, in Central Ohio, none of them had to file legal action because the momentum was already there. So if you're in a state where the districts, where it's really, really entrenched, if you can get one district, like a lighthouse district, to go after them hard, then it helps everybody. Parents for Reading Justice, our goals, and this is, again, kind of really geared toward fundraising. So we talk about our social media followers. Oh, we also have a podcast. And we thought that it was really important. It's called Literacy Now. But we realized that it's expensive to come to these conferences. And we wanted to lift up parent groups who are doing this work and having success. So we have interviews with parent groups in districts where they have been able to flip their district to talk about how they did it. And also with experts. We've got like Kareem Weaver, Tracy Whedon, Margie Gillis, Jan Hasbrook, to talk. A lot of times when they're talking to teachers. They're not talking to parents, and we may have different questions that we want to ask. So that's one thing, to keep parents up to date and educated. We need to do one on DLD because that's like the latest thing. So maybe Tiffany Hogan will come with us, but we are looking for funding to expand. So if anybody has any very wealthy benefactors who want to invest in parents, it's so interesting to me. Parents who are doing work, who are training teachers how to teach reading, can get money like crazy. Parents who are tutoring children how to read, in my opinion, seem to get money fairly easily. But if you are looking to raise money to step one step back to professionally organize parent groups, to me, it's a little trickier. So that's my goal right now. And this is all of our information, where to email me, website, podcast, listen to the podcast, all of our socials. And then I did want to, Louise is going to come up. We have been involved with a new organization called the Evidence Advocacy Center. And it's really very interesting. I think it's going to be beneficial for parents, but let me let Louise talk about it real quick.
Thank you. I'll just take literally a couple of minutes to let you know about it and what's there for parents, because this is a center that just formed less than a year ago, led by Doug Carnine out of Oregon and Linda Diamond in California. And you'll recognize if you look at the executive team and the advisors, and there's 9 teams that support the Evidence Advocacy Center. You'll recognize very many of those names: thought leaders, researchers, professors. And, but they do recognize, and they want the strong parent voice. They recognize the importance of parents to affect the change that we need to affect in this country. The Evidence Advocacy Center, is their long-term goal is to transform the education profession into one grounded in the evidence basis for licensure, accreditation, across all aspects of the education field. In the short term, what we're working on are menus that each of the teams will have up on our website. There's 3 up already, and one of them is our parent menu of resources, evidence-based resources. So you can all go there under the Our People section, scroll down, and you'll find each of the 9 teams, which include state departments of education, institutes of higher education, school districts, districts and schools, and advocates, and our parent and family advocates. We have our team up, our team menu up. So please look at that. There's a lot of really good information, and as time permits, we add more. And if there's anything you have, you can certainly email it to me, and we'll have a look, and we're constantly wanting to make it very supportive and helpful and accessible for parents. And of course, we're all at different points in our understanding and our knowledge. So we've tried to build out a menu of resources that has information, both articles you can read, websites you can watch, for parents starting out just at the beginning, or who have, really have a lot of knowledge themselves. And so that information is there. The assessments team, I'll give them a shout out. They've just put up their menu of resources. So if you want information, evidence-based resources and explanations about screening and assessment and everything there, you can find it as well at that website. So I think we'll take questions.
No. One thing I forgot to mention. So this to me is like the most exciting work. So if you do the groundwork of developing a parent group within a district, and then you flip into the science of reading, and then you're able to partner with them and have that mutual collaboration to move your district forward. There's a trust that you've built, and you can go after the real root of the problem, which is the colleges of education. So unless we flip them, they are going to keep spewing out science deniers. So what we did was we took our district and 2 other Central Ohio districts, and I had to literally talk them into doing this. It's so strange to me, because having a business background, it's very common to go in and give customer feedback to your supplier. You say, this is what we need. And you are not, here's the thing you could tweak so that we could work better together. So like Intel is building a huge new chip plant in Columbus. And they went into Ohio State University and they said, this is what we need in our engineering candidates for you to graduate. And the engineering program said, absolutely, we would love to do that. How can we help? Districts who are the primary customer of the product of colleges of education, teachers, don't even think to go in and talk to their supplier. So we cajoled them and encouraged them and made the argument, we are spending a fortune retraining every single teacher that you are sending to us. And you are the foremost research institute in the state. Hello, what are we doing? So they made the appointment with the dean of the College of Education at Ohio State University. We met once as an individual group, and that was good. I gave him Seidenberg's book. He's a psychology PhD, and I thought he would resonate with him. But we didn't get as much movement as I would like. So then I thought, well, we're just going to keep going back. We're going to continue to meet and have this conversation. But this time we took 3 districts with us, and the district is the one who has to make the call because they're the customer, not me. Not the parent, but the district is. But that's why the trust with the district is important. Then we didn't get a response because they kind of knew, well, if Arlington is going to call, I don't know if I do want to meet with them. But we invited the provost. Well, the provost has financial responsibility for the College of Education. Again, going back to business practices, going back to the money. If the provost is involved, it's a different conversation. So within like 2 hours, we got an email back. They wanted to meet with us. They were excited to hear from us. And we met with them. We had several points. Number one, we're spending too much money on professional development, retraining your teachers in the science of reading. So we would like to see that. Number 2, we are going to prioritize hiring from other colleges of education who are more in line with the science of reading from here on out. And number 3, and this one kind of gut punched them, we are not going to allow your student teachers into our classrooms any longer because they are not qualified. That is a very different conversation. And that's the kind of work that you can do that does have impact once you have your base business of a parent group within a district. That's why the power originates in the district and is so important. Now, one of the other things that we've just recently done, there's also work at a statewide level in our legislation. And if you can do this, it's very powerful. We were able to secure a statewide audit of all 50 of our colleges of education. We did a big right to read screening. Kareem Weaver came in. We had a big panel with the governor. I was lucky enough to get to sit between Kareem Weaver and the governor of Ohio. And my joke was the day before and the day after, I'm the exact same person. But all of a sudden the optics of sitting next to the governor, everybody thinks, wow, she might know what she's talking about. So I began having access to some of the highest levels of the state and began having lunch, began building this relationship. And they said, we're doing this audit. And I said, well, that is very important work. And I said, but if they don't pass the audit, what are you going to do? And they said, well, we will not accredit the programs. So I said, oh my God, this is the most important work being done right now. But I said, what's really critical with a place like Ohio State right next to us, and they're our big research institute, we got to make sure we have people we can trust doing that audit. So they said, well, help us find somebody that you can trust. And so by having that relationship and coming to these conferences and being involved and having really good resources like the Evidence Advocacy Center, we were able to facilitate the Meadows Center in Austin, with Dr. Sharon Vaughn, and she's bringing in Jack Fletcher. And I talked Kelly Butler coming out of retirement to be on the implementation team. She's responsible for the Mississippi Miracle, which is really hard work. And a woman named Marty Hugan. So we were able to put together this team at the Meadows Center, who is now going to audit all 50 of our colleges of education. And if they do not, there's like a grace period that's like a year after, if they're not following the rules precisely, they will not be accredited. So from the get-go, there is so much work that can be done, so much good that can be done after you get the parent group at the district up and running. You can even work as high as in the College of Education and have an implement. So, we thought if there was a few minutes and anybody wanted to just talk about where you're from and like what's going on in your area, it's a chance for us just to talk to one another. Would you like to go first? Where are you from?
Oh, so I'm a parent from northeast of Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm just now learning about the dyslexia. And my daughter, the whole journey with her, this group was just failed her, so I had to pull her out of the public school for a private school who service children with learning differences such as dyslexia. And we're in the middle of, had to take her back to the public school to have her reevaluated. So I have to, we're in the middle of her IEP. And so I don't know anything about it. I have a parent advocate that has gone along with me, but I now work for that school. I'm the office manager, bookkeeper, and they brought me along to attend all these sessions because what I would like to do is just not my baby. It's just it happened to her. Now she's 7th grade, supposed to be in the 8th, and she's still on the 4th grade level. And they're just now, I'm trying to get to what is the root, what is the problem. But I would love to form a parent group. So I'm just really, really into everything you were saying. And
well, and what's really exciting, you have Missy Purcell in Georgia, who is bam. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're in.
Sits in my IEP meetings. I mean, we were there for 3 hours. She stopped the meeting. I mean, she is so amazing, and she's in my life, and I'm like, she's changing our lives.
She also has a Facebook page, Parent is a Science of Reading for Advocates. It's a good one. Get on that. But yeah, so she will help you.
And what we would recommend is once you and Missy get your child what she needs, form that parent group for all of the kids.
So I'm this mom who has been begging. I mean, I just met her, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do this. And I'll slip her $100. I mean, she's doing this free. Never met me through a mutual friend who works at the school now as well. And she spent all this time helping my baby and never charged me a dime. And I've been slipping her a little money here and there. And I told her, I keep saying, if you can start a business, I promise I'll be your bookkeeper. But just because there are so many children like my daughter and so many of us parents who feel so lost in trying to get help for our children. And so.
Well, and what we can do is help resource you. We could do more if we had like a big, funding influx, but what we can do is help you with what we do have. One of the things we just do right away is to give you our mission statement. You just take the UA kid off the top and put yours on. And that way your group, you just figure out your name, but you could be Parents for Reading Justice Atlanta. And then, you have a mission statement immediately. And then you get your people together, you begin meeting. we can provide you with, and we might have on the Evidence Advocacy Center some things like presentations that Decoding Dyslexia uses, that Deb Lynham was talking about, just to get all your parents up to speed on the science of reading. Other thing is the Emily Hamford, the podcast that she's done. And if you don't know about that, do you know about Emily Hamford? Oh, come up afterwards. Okay. Oh my gosh, yeah. And reach out, because we'll help. Absolutely. Does anybody else want to talk about anything that's going on in their own district, or have a question, or anyone? Anyone?
I'm a dyslexic high school student in Mississippi. I'm in a private school, so a lot of the legal stuff that doesn't really necessarily apply.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of the voice of the dyslexic students at my high school. So really relatively small school, but I'm kind of the one that, like, it's been a bit of a situation, and I'm trying to kind of get a little bit more research back into some of the stuff I'm telling the schools on like what they should be doing versus what they are doing. Because I did the dyslexia therapy that the school offered for a while, along with some of the private intervention, and my private interventionist essentially told my mom to stop letting the school intervene because they were making everything worse. So just trying to get a little bit more.
That's a lot of misleading in our high school about the intervention that they offer. And so parents attend the school and then think they're going to get these services that they're not actually receiving, like the dyslexia therapy. You know, it's like twice a week with a group of 6 for 30 minutes. And we're like, yeah, that's not gonna.
Yeah,
So he's kind of like the person that really took the parents come to our school to ask about how he's been successful.
when our current head of school, in charge of everyone's daughter, was diagnosed with dyslexia in seventh grade. The first person he called was not at the school, but her. Like,
Who do we use?
who do we go to for their, not the school? He's the head of the school. You use the school.
But does he not, I mean, there is a strong State Department of Education with resources and training at all the levels.
If you were lucky with the Barksdale reading,
Right.
and they've been doing tax reading a most schools for a pretty long time. Our private school is, let's put it this way, we had 14 national merit finalists out of the class of 60.
Mm-hmm.
So, he, I think, is the only surviving dyslexic student in his grade.
Oh my goodness.
Because, quite honestly, they don't want it.
Yeah.
They're trying to weed them out. They don't see them as being successful. But we go on to say, they look at their standardized test scores and they think, no, they can't do it. So he won't say this, but he took the ACT, Defying College, and the first time he took it, through like a prep course,
No accommodation.
no accommodations, he made 15 on reading, and let's just say my heart really dropped because you have to go do the remedial reading class at community college with that. And so I said, take it again.
Actually, does. If he took what test?
Well, he was just said online. And then he took it with the accommodations, and he made a
30
Woo, wow.
So, you know, I think it really shows you how much accommodations, how important they are.
What were the helpful accommodations for you? Extended time, presumably?
Extended time is the best accommodation.
Okay.
Because the hardest part about any of the sections is just reading all the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even the math section, like, you just have to read everything. And the reason I didn't do quite as well on the reading section when I took it without accommodations was because I didn't have time to read it. So I would just skim it, answer the questions, and keep going. But with, like, any extended time level, like, it just allows you to read all the material.
Yeah.
So you can actually answer the problems, so it's not just a guessing game. That's the big
Good for you for, your grit and perseverance.
He benefits with
Mm-hmm.
this class work, his extended work set.
Yes. I'm also dysgraphic, so my handwriting is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So like on any sort of math assignment, math teachers are the hardest to get about. They're like, this is an English thing. But
It's a language thing.
yeah. So just being able to kind of, with the research, present evidence. Most teachers, when they hear the evidence, they want to teach you, but they just don't have the education to do it the right way. Is the biggest issue I've seen. Is once you show them the right way, and if they get interested in it, and if they think and believe what you're saying, then that's where you can have some real change at the teacher level.
Well done.
Yeah, amazing. Our time is up unless anybody wants to stick around and ask a question. Thank you.